Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Hey, what is happening, all you YouTubers out there and everyone else? It is Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I am your host, Jeff. This guy right here. I always do it this way now. That way I'm covered.
One of those is right.
One of them's right, yeah. This guy over here, Nick, from Thralls of Metal, Necrotic Nick. What is happening, dude? How you doing, man?
Doing well. I'm stoked to do this one, considering I just saw I Am Morbid not too long ago.
Oh, right.
And
right. When was that?
That was last weekend down in the middle of nowhere in Illinois. And was reminded that one of these albums is celebrating its 30th anniversary that we're going to go over. So yeah, I'm stoked. This is going to be fun, and I'm very prepared.
Good deal, man. Good deal. What's up, Kelty? What's up, Nate? What is up, Boss Antelope? Haven't seen you around. Good to see you. AZ Mick, what's happening? Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. I gather more people will start folding in here shortly, but there's Metal Overkill. What's up, guys? Hey, so we're going to talk about today is the 4th episode of the Dad series, which what's that stand for, Nick?
Dumbasses. No. Definitive Albums Deconstructed.
Right on. Definitive Albums Deconstructed. And it's the series that I started to kind of, some of these bands that I haven't done deep dives on or that we haven't, talked about on my show. And this is one of them, surprisingly. I mean, I'm sure we've made reference to Morbid Angel albums many, many times on streams and other such things, but we've not actually done a specific deep dive or talked, in depth about any of these albums. So what the Dad series allows me to do is to kind of cheat a little bit and have just one guest, not 18,000, which is my normal gig, but one guest, and we go kind of mano-a-mano or head to toe or whatever you want to talk, throwdown style on which album we kind of think is the album that crystallizes the sound, the vision, the intentions of the band that we're talking about, or the artist. And we kind of have a little list of criteria that I try to adhere to. I don't make my guests do exactly what they're doing, but no mom series yet. I know it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of like that. There's a little bit of not racism. What's the word I'm talking? Favoritism. What's that?
Sexism?
Sexism, I guess you could say, yeah.
If you can find an acronym for MILF, I'm totally down for that that series.
Oh, I think I could find something to fit that acronym.
I trust your judgment.
Yeah. I'm going to work on that tonight. That's my sole purpose after we get done here. Speaking of after night, we'll probably do a post-show hang. I don't know that it'll be like right away. It might be 10, 15 minutes later. I'll fire up a post-show thing for anyone that wants to join. I hit up a lot of people out there, so I'm pretty open to bringing new people in as long as you're not a dick. If you're a dick, you won't be back. It's just that simple, and you'll get booted quick. That's just how it works with me. But we'll see how that goes. I'll remind myself of that at the end of the show. But so I hit up Nick, who's been a regular contributor and collaborator on Gas Mask. And I said, dude, what band do you want to go with? And after a little bit of ghosting me, just going silent for a little bit.
It's him again.
Probably going, oh my God, it's him again.
Forgot I give him my number.
I forgot. I thought I put him on block. Anyway, he got back to me and said, what about Morbid Angel? And I'm like, dude, that's perfect because we haven't talked about Morbid Angel on this show yet. So, we need to get into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to blast out some basic facts on the album. We're going to go through track by track or whatever, however Nick decides to do it. I've done it track by track.
You're
go
the guide on this one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, so you're the guide on this one.
Okay.
However you want to lay it out.
Yeah, but it's up to you how you want to run it. So basically, you're at least you're relaying your information that you want to relay. You don't have to do it track by track.
Oh, okay.
But that's how I'm doing it. And I do it on a little bit of a funky scale. I do it on the bangers, tweener bangers, and semi-banger scale, or meh skippable tracks. That's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way, but that's how I'm doing it. So most of these are bangers or mega bangers, tweener bangers. There's a track or two that are meh for me on both albums, actually. But we'll kind of get into that in a sec here. We'll also talk a little bit about production. We'll talk a little bit about, sales figures if there's stuff there. We will talk about sequencing, replayability. Those are kind of the criteria to talk about the albums and why we think personally this is the definitive album of the band's catalog. So, Nick, let's talk about your choice, which was Covenant, which came out June 22nd, 1993. It was recorded January through March of 93, and it was recorded at the famed Morris Sound Recording Studios in Tampa, Florida. It came out on Earache in Europe and Giant in North America. There's a little bit of info I'm going to talk about with that Giant in reference to that Giant thing real quick. And it was produced by Flemming Rasmussen, who you should know if you know metal. You know he produced Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Kill 'Em All. So that's a pretty good resume right there. I'll give you a couple quick deets on this. Released June 22nd, 93. It was the band's breakthrough album due to their contract with Giant Records and its widespread exposure on MTV's Headbangers Ball, as well as a music video for God of Emptiness, which appeared quite a lot on Beavis and Butthead. Where is my boy Robert at? Where is my dog, Robert? He's not in the comments. Holy shit. All right. He's probably out. He's already working on the MILF series.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? He's working on that MILF series already. According to Nielsen SoundScan, Covenant was the best-selling death metal album as of 2003, with sales of over 150,000 units. That's pretty impressive. In 2017, Rolling Stone named it the 75th best metal album of all time. By the early to mid-90s, thrash metal had largely given way to death metal as it continued to push the limits of extreme metal, while its mainstream acceptability grew partly due to the collaboration between Earache and Columbia Records. Covenant's release through Earache and Giant therefore represented one of the most significant releases of that time period, and in 93 it is widely credited as one of death metal's highest peaks. Morbid Angel's success with their previous two albums gained them a one-album record deal with the option for 5 more with Giant Records, a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. In the spring of 92, later that same year, second guitarist Richard Brunel was kicked out of the band due to alleged substance abuse. Strange. Interesting. That should tell you something right there. That's probably very telling.
Must have been really doing something.
Yeah, really. The album is widely considered to be a milestone in the death metal genre, arriving at and representing the genre's peak. The album sales were almost unprecedented for a band album and genre so relentlessly extreme. Following the success of Morbid Angel and particularly Covenant, Columbia Records signed many of the Earache Records' other bands, including Carcass, Entombed, and Napalm Death, seeking to replicate the album's success. However, none of those albums sound-scanned even a third of what Covenant did. That's pretty insane, actually. Yeah. Worse still, none of them even outsold the previous respective albums by those bands. As a consequence, Columbia systematically dropped these bands from their rosters, cutting ties with all of them within 3 years. Morbid Angel's following album on Giant Records sold, which is Domination, roughly sold 70,000 copies, less than half of what Covenant did. But the band were nonetheless also dropped from the label's roster after that album. So, all right, Nick, dive in.
Okay. Well, I mean, all right. Should I just go into why I believe it is the definitive Morbid Angel album? It embodies everything that they do well. That is probably the main point. Altars came in thrashy. It's aggressive. It's fast. It sounds evil as shit. I mean, sounding evil as shit is pretty much Morbid's thing. But it was kind of like still hanging on to thrash. And that's totally understandable because US death metal, its roots are in thrash metal in terms of like where it kind of came up from. So the next album, Blessed, still has that element, but there's a lot of slower, sludgy stuff in there. And it kind of creates a totally different mood. This embodied both. And honestly, it did it in a level of tightness, like musical tightness that honestly they didn't have on those previous two. This is one of the tightest death metal albums ever, especially when you consider how just insanely fast it goes. Pete Sandoval's footwork, his blast beats are some of the fastest that he's ever done are still on this album. I still think maybe Formulas he's going even faster, but man, riff wise, you have a great mix of different styles in there. Like this is creatively like a little bit more riffy in terms of just being more technical, but still finding a way to be catchy. And the fact that when they got signed to a major label, generally that, makes metalheads worry, like, oh shit, this is where they sell the fuck out. And that didn't happen. In fact, I would say they made their most aggressive album to date, but they did it in such an awesome, catchy way. There's nothing on here that sacrifices an ounce of what Morbid Angel is known for. In fact, I would say it only heightens it. You actually had their first legit big singles on here. Rapture had its own video too, as well as God of Emptiness, which is arguably their most popular song. I mean, yeah. It's the one that everyone seems to know. It was the one that I was exposed to initially. It was on Beavis and Butthead, and then I had a buddy of mine play that on a long car ride up to a buddy's house while I was really, really stoned. And that was the first moment where I thought, man, music sounds evil. And yeah, everything, again, that they do, I think they just do at a heightened level. And that is no disrespect to Altars, because I absolutely love that album too. So this is kind of a tough one because I could probably make an argument that they're both damn near perfect albums. Strong tracks on here. I mean, it's kind of all of them. Sworn in the Black. Vengeance is Mine is one of my absolute favorites. It is one of the fastest, most aggressive songs on there. The riffing is so tight. God of Emptiness, yeah. I mean, it is one of the most evil sounding songs. And Dave Vincent's cleans are quite effective on there with the baritone chants. It conjures up like a whole atmosphere in itself. And I mean, Pain Divine, World of Shit, The Promised Land. Man, it is hard for me to find really any flaws in there. Even the throwback track, Angel of Disease, which was a leftover from their earlier days, they just kind of like, well, let's just throw it on there. It's a good change of pace. It reminds you of their origins. It's a little bit thrashier, kind of more DB driven. Yeah, no, this is, at least in my mind, definitive for the fact that everything that I love about this band is essentially on this album. And they did it damn near perfectly. So if you had to, when we get into the banger section here, and we're not talking about the MILF series, we're talking about yeah, sorry. I know you were looking forward to that. Now you brought that up. What are you telling me every single track on here is a banger for you? Is there any skippers or any that you're kind of, it's okay, but it's not great? Be honest. I mean, honestly, like when I listen to the album, I listen to the whole thing. Okay, so you never there's not a track in here that I would skip. I mean, Angel of Disease is kind of a stand-up because it is different. I like it, but it is not nearly as aggressive or evil. Like it's a throwback. Like it sounds like late 80s death metal versus 90s death metal. And there's definitely a change in that sound. Like 90s death metal notably became more aggressive. In fact, I would say more just purely death metal. Like a lot of the 80s death metal that came up, like, I mean, arguably Possessed, Death, even Obituary, there was still a big thrash backbone to it. You can still hear that in Angel of Disease, and it does stand out as being notably different, but Man, I really wouldn't call it skippable. I mean, if I could, I would say maybe it's one of those tweener bangers, which that sounds dirty, but
Nah, it's exactly right on.
I mean but it's not
Well,
skippable.
okay, so what are your top 3 favorite tracks on this
Oh
album?
God, this is a pain in the ass. Rapture in the
Wow, this
opener.
is
I love that opening riff. That is one of the dirtiest, most evil sounding tremolo riffs. I mean, yeah, cliche please are coming to get me for sure for God of Emptiness, but yeah, it's a favorite. Vengeance is mine. The Lion's Den is so good. Sworn to the Black. Yeah, I'm gonna end up naming all the tracks, but yeah, those are ones that, like, if I'm listening to this album, there's no way in hell I'm skipping them.
okay. All right. What about production for you?
Production, honestly, it kind of comes back to like the comparison between the first 2 albums. Altars definitely has a more raw, kind of thrashy sound. Like you listen to the guitars, they're a little bit squawkier, a little bit kind of sizzly. And when you get to Blessed, they're notably thicker and kind of murkier and muddier. And I don't know, that kind of carries over really well in here. But again, that aggression also kind of matches up that you get on Altars. I like the production here. It's got that right level of muddy, like it's got the what I would call discernible grit to it. It's that kind of just nasty raw sound that you would also get live. And that's one of the things I really like about it. So like, production wise, I think it's solid for like 93, which, honestly, listening to a lot of death metal now, there's a ton of death metal bands that go for like this sound on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dig the production.
What about how about replayability for you? Is this an album that you pull out regularly, or is it something you pull out once or twice a year, or not even once a year? Like, I mean, I know I'm asking a guy that owns 8 million fucking CDs, but because that can be a little bit of a choice, can be a little bit of a problem for you. I get that. It's like, well, let's see, where do I start today? But
well, the thing with Morbid Angel, if I'm in the mood for Morbid Angel, there are umpteen million bands I could listen to that emulate Morbid Angel. There's an entire subset, I would say, in death metal that is just flat out Morbid Angel worship, like a Malignant Altar, Gorephilia from Finland. Gorephilia might be one of the
incantation.
Oh yeah, blood incantations all over there. But
and they don't make any, they don't make any bones about it. They don't pretend like it's not the reality.
Most of those Morbid Angel worship bands are very transparent about it,
and they pay homage.
Yeah, it's love of it because this is a defining band for the genre. All these tropes carry over for a reason because they became like the sound. But if I want to listen to Morbid Angel flat out, I generally grab Covenant. Like, other albums, of course, I'll grab them and jam them. Like, I love Altars, I love Blessed. Even Domination has some bangers that I just need to listen to, like, Dawn the Angry, which, for fuck's sake, just play that song live, guys. But, yeah, when it comes down to just jamming Morbid Angel in terms of just getting everything I want, in terms of just that sound, it's Covenant. It really is.
I'm not I highlighted all the comments, guys. I'm not necessarily going to comment on everything here. I Green Diesel, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe Nick does. Ill Bill, Gore-Tex, Necro. I don't.
Oh, I know what he's talking about.
Death rap metal ain't my fucking thing, dude. Rap's not my thing at all. So you're never gonna see that here.
I also do think like some of the individual performances on that album are like some of the best. Like I think some of Trey's best riffs are on Covenant. Again, there's a little bit more variety because they're sort of balancing out what they did on the first 2 albums.
Right.
Pete Sandoval's drum performance is unreal. His turnovers.
It's kind of insane on all the albums. Let's be honest. But I think a statement to make here real quick before we keep going is that Morbid Angel has a particular vibe and sound that's all their own, that they created that niche, and they've crafted it going forward. And there really isn't until you get to maybe Heretic a bad album, and Heretic's not really a bad album. It just has superiorly shitty production on it.
Oh.
And then after Heretic, well,
yeah,
I
that
don't know what to say. It just
Aluminum Anus, that's what you say.
the wheels have fallen off the truck. I'm not even a big fan of the new one because I think the production on that's very odd too. But, you know, I could have picked Gateways. I could have picked I Like Domination. I know that's not a favorite of yours. I kind of like a lot of the songs on there, although some of the production on that's not the greatest. I really like Formulas, but it's got that last ending batch of tracks that are kind of wonky, that are kind of overkill. Gateways is killer, but you know, there's what I wanted to try to do with this thing is, you know, I wanted to try to look at what is distilling everything down to its essence. What is the album that I would go to somebody and say, this is the album? Okay. So you and I both chose a different album, which is how this thing works. Because if we choose the same album, it's not really going to work.
There's no argument.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no argument. But I think that in all honesty, you could go with either one of these albums or any one of the first 7 or so, right? What is it? A, B. Well, the truth of the matter is my favorite Morbid Angel album is not the one I chose. I happen to really like Blessed Are the Sick. It's a
good album too.
It's a different vibe on that album than pretty much all the other ones. Okay. And you said it's more the sludge and drone and dark ambient sort of vibe to their craziness on the first album, the savagery of the first album, and then Covenant kind of coalesces it. So I'll agree with that point that you've got me on that, in that it kind of coalesces the past and the future on this album, right? Because once you get to Covenant, once you go beyond Covenant, Domination kind of becomes a little bit more sludgy, and then you get to what was he? I forget what he was, the live album.
No, Entangled in Chaos.
That was the live one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, which I don't own. And then F, Formulas, gets kind of crazy on the technical side, actually.
Oh yeah.
And then Gateways is like the true sludge stoner doom metal, almost, in a weird by comparison.
Yeah.
In Trey's parlance of sludge stoner doom. Yeah. So for me on this, I'm going to go through track by track. Rapture has those spiraling tremolo riffs that are kind of an insane drumming by Pete. Evil D's is a little more croaky here, a little deeper in his delivery.
This is the register that I like him at. I like what he does on Altars. Like, he's got a kind of almost like a black metal kind of scream.
Well, he's kind of in the Chuck realm. He's in the Schuldiner realm a little bit, trying to be.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have the rasp as good, but he's kind of in between a Chuck Schuldiner and where he goes with the more old school death metal vibe. But now
he has like a clear delivery too, which is the thing that you can make out every blasphemous word.
You can always understand the lyrics with Vincent. There's no problem with that at all. So go back to this. So less screaming, more croaking, but very understandable. Angular stabbing riffs and those whammy dives and chugging. But here's where I'm going to piss some people off. I realized, and I own all these albums. Nick's showing them, but I own them all. If you watch any of my material, I have all my shit packed away in closets, and it's very hard to access everything. So I ask my collaborators to help me out a little bit. So I own all this stuff, going way back to the early 2000s for me. I wasn't there in the 90s, but I came on board around 2001. Altars was one of the first albums I picked up. Covenant was the second one I picked up. But here's where I'm going to piss people off. Morbid Angel's strength and weakness lies in one guy. And that guy is Trey Azagthoth. Trey is a monster riff writer. He has kind of created a death metal sound with those lurching riffs. I call them lurching. They
bend, they kind of ooze.
It's this oozing, chugging, things. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but there's always a lot of activity, and it's always very rhythmic and very different sounding than a lot of other death metal guitar players. Now, the other side of Trey is the one that bothers me. And it's why I realize, Nate, you're just in time for this. I'm going to talk some good stuff about Mr. Azagthoth and some shit on Mr. Azagthoth. The problem I have with Trey Azagthoth is that he wants to jizz all over every open space in every track. Every track has a and it's every fucking track.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, as much as I love Morbid Angel, that I'm a guitar player and I want to hear a lot of guitar masturbation, but I don't want to hear it in every fucking open space in every song. And Trey pretty much does it in every song, on every album.
Oh, yeah.
At least these two albums for sure. So going back to Rapture, super killer track. That's a mega banger for me. But as good as Trey is at the wank, some of it is honestly, as a guitar player, it's kind of fucking annoying for me. And I can also say this too. Not all of it is great. I'm just going to be blunt. Not all of it is mind blowing. Okay. It's just,
yeah. No, I would agree with that. A lot of Trey's leads, I think, are done to be just as disjointed and twisted as some of his riffs. Like, they're not really intended to be melodic, so he kind of goes the same well very often, like whammy bar, bending, weird atonal stuff, like just to make it sound as crazy as the riffs and like kind of as unsettling. Like he loves dissonance, he loves atonal, stuff like that. But I would say his strength has always been more in the riffs than it is the leads. Like there's a couple of standout leads that I like, but for the most part, it's the riffs. The riffs are, again, mined by death metal bands from, their inception on.
Absolutely. I mean, pretty much every Blood Incantation album is an homage to those types of riffs. And whereas they are a little more decidedly surgical with their soloing, they don't just overkill it all the time. Devin and I've had this issue about Blood Incantation's overrated. It's like, yeah, I get it, but they're kind of like a modern day Morbid Angel that's a little bit better at doing Morbid Angel now, for me. Anyways, that's the truth.
I would say that about Gorephilia.
Yeah, Gorephilia is the same. Absolutely. Those last two albums are fantastic.
Severed Monolith.
So Pain Divide, that snare and double bass is absolutely crazy, man. Pete the Feats goes nuts. And that just reminds me and puts me in mind of the video thing that went around about 15 years ago, 12, 14, 15 years ago with the Hitler downfall movie that was out there. And the guy's like, walks in to tell Hitler the double red vinyl edition of Altars of Madness or whatever. And he's like, if it doesn't have Pete's the Feet, I don't want to, I don't want to know. I can't remember the exact words, but so yeah, so back to that. We go back to those riffs, those alt-picked tremolo riffs. They're not tremolo like black metal. It's a totally different tremolo. It's a fast alternate picked single line thing that Trey does exceptionally well. And again, is another hallmark of Trey's playing. Okay, he's not doing the chordal tremolo picking where you're doing every note on throughout the chord scale. He's doing it on single notes up and down the neck, and it gives this almost like tornadic sort of vibe to the songs. And again, it's that lurching thing that it works with those single alt picks or that thing when it's over those lurching chordal things that he's doing, just has a very unique sound. As a guitar player, it's like, whoa, that's unique. World of Shit. I love this song, actually. It's one of my favorites. It's very sludgy, lots of pinch harmonics on it. Pretty, a lot of squeals. Pretty polar opposite of Pain Divine at first, but then it speeds up for the verses, and it sounds almost like a punk track, actually, to a degree. Vengeance is Mine. Those churning, lurching riffs are a Trey hallmark, and on Full Assault here, great track. The harmonies on the churning riffs that he adds, he's doing octaves, and he's going wah 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 wah, which he was one of the first guys I think that was doing octaves in metal back then, like in extreme metal. There were other guys that were doing it, but the way he did it went with almost like a tremolo pick harmonized octave thing was kind of unique. Trey's solo on this song is actually too over the top for me. It's just wanking to wank on that song, to be honest with you. Lion's Den, that's my favorite track on the album. Other than God of Emptiness, this is my favorite track, along with World of Shit. The riffs on Lion's Den are just crushing and killing.
Yes.
It's just a badass song. Blood on My Hands, relentless riffery. But again, Trey, can you leave any space untouched by wank? I don't think you can. Probably won't get an actual interview with Trey Azagthoth after this.
It's sinister wank. Come on, man.
It's sinister wank, right? Angel of Disease. I actually like this one quite a bit. I give it a mega banger status. I like it's my favorite vocal of Evil D's on the album. It's just something really like punky about it and attitudinous, almost Chuck Schuldiner sounding on that one. This one has a really weird atmospheric solo that's really cool at first until he starts doing that odd bluesy bit in the solo. Otherwise, it's a killer track. You see, I listen very carefully to this shit as a guitar player. So, Sworn to Black, that's kind of the mad track for me. Yeah, this track
played it live too.
It doesn't do much for me, man. It's kind of punk-like at the beginning. Trey goes wank. You got some flanged phase stuff in there and more wank. It's just not a track that did much. Narmataru, whatever, man. The video game Cthulhu track, nothing super interesting. Just a synthy sort of intro to God.
I really didn't count that one because I generally just I skip over interludes like most of the time, unless it's like a really cool musical setup, which I mean it's a mood setter, and how it goes into God of Emptiness I think is really cool. But I mean it's an interlude. Most interludes I skip. God
of Emptiness, probably the track everyone that knows anything about Morbid Angel or even a tiny little bit would know that's the track. This is a really killer track. It's kind of in two parts. It's kind of in fact, they call the two different parts the Accuser and the Tempter. And the Accuser section is more the death metal-y, creepy, crawling, slow, sludging, lurching. That's the lurching track. Everything's like, it's just like, yeah.
I did not even understand like that riff construction when I heard it for the first time. Like it was literally the most different thing I think I had heard because I've been listening to like thrash and like Cannibal Corpse to that point, and then hearing that, I was like, dude, this is just evil. This is just evil, and I don't know how it descends and crawls and bends. Like it feels unnatural. Like, and I think that's like kind of the big appeal.
Yep. So for me, that's kind of the Death Doom track on the album, and it's one of the most known. It's Dave's vocals on this track are really scary, ugly, man. They're so cool. And, during the chorus when he's doing the "Let the children come to me," and then he does the "just like a snake I'm slithering to my world divine." I can't do the death metal vocals, obviously, so you're lucky. You're not going to get much death. But you will get this part. Bow to me faithfully, bow to me splendidly. You got to do that because it's the best part of the song. It just rips.
I mean, I don't know. I love the first dude. Like when he's growling and alternating between the, like a snake God slithering. Like it is so damn sinister. The second half feels more like evil church cathedral, which is also sinister. But that first half, like those big, stupid, heavy chugs paired with that.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Dude.
So this is a 9 out of 10 album for me. It's an 8 on the replayability scale. Production is fine overall. Good separation and mix. It also, I think the sequencing is fine. I don't really see anything that sticks out as like, do you really need the intro track to this? Probably not, but whatever. It's not that long. It's kind of atmospheric and spooky and all that kind of stuff.
Let's
So it
do
works. My only complaint, it's going to be the same for the first album, is Trey's constant need to wank all over the place all the time. It's just, he can't not do it, apparently. So that's just one of those things. Some people love it. I don't love it. That's just all I'm saying. Ben, Pete is back playing. I think Nick just saw him, right?
I Am Morbid. Yeah, honestly, it felt more like Morbid Angel than the last couple of times I saw Morbid Angel. I hate saying that, but it's true. And yeah, Dave sounded great. Pete is Pete the fucking Feet still. Like, don't even question it.
Okay. We'll get to my album in a sec here. I'll just catch up on comments. Lots of people chiming in. You guys are both correct. Alter is one of the most important. Yep. That's a good point. One was 80s, one was 90s, but I mean, there was only 4 years between them. Yeah, Fast Stuff on Formulas is insane. I was looking at that one, but I just didn't go there.
Nothing is not.
I love the vocals. That's why I like that second. Why I like Blessed.
Oh, to Fall from Grace, the title track, Rapture.
All right,
Rapture?
what's up,
no,
Nate?
Rapture. Sorry, not Rapture. Sorry. Brainstorm was the one I was thinking of.
Trey gets too masturbatory with the solos, Heretic and Formulas. Okay, yeah, I haven't been there. I haven't gone to check those out yet lately. Mindless Shred. Yeah, I don't. Mindless Shred is. If I want Mindless Shred, I'll go listen to Liquid Tension's Experiment. I don't really need it and want it on my death metal, to be very honest with you.
My caveat is I think it's done more in favor of atmosphere rather than like showboating or anything like that.
I disagree with you. And the reason I do is that he kind of falls into the same basic tropes, the same tricks. It's always a and he's not Eddie Van Halen. He's not. I'm sorry, he's just not. That's his favorite guy. Eddie is his favorite guitar player.
Eddie Van Satan.
Eddie Van Satan, right? But he's not as clean as Eddie on that, and he's not as good. Whereas he can do stuff that Eddie could never do, like those lurching, speedy riffs. I just don't think he's a great tapper. There's great tappers. There's guys like John Petrucci, and there's guys like who am I thinking about tap wise? Eddie, and there's guys that do it all the time, that Jeff Watson from Night Ranger and Brad Gillis, and guys that just are so good at the tapping game, right? I just don't hear that out of Trey, to be very blunt with you. So I do think it just gets annoying to me. What's that? 100 Sinister Wank. There you go. Yep. How to be faithfully. All right. Do we have anything else here? What's up? Hey, Levi. What's happening, buddy?
What's up, Levi?
No, I don't think they're mindless at all. John Petrucci's one of the most tastefully melodic lead players you're ever going to hear. That's just the reality of that. So, best feel of any guitar player. Exactly. Yeah. Vito was killer. Exactly. Excellent point. Whether you like White Line or you don't, Vito was a fucking masterful tapper in the Eddie Van, and he was a disciple of Eddie, as most tappers are, quite frankly. But so that's a 9 out of 10 for me on that album, Nick. It probably could be a little higher, but my choice is a little higher. But I don't think I'd give it a full 10 out of 10, mainly because the wanking just puts me off a little bit. And it's pretty egregious on the first album too, which we'll get into in a minute. So I'll do my thing on my album, then you chime in with your thoughts on it, and we'll be wrapped fairly quickly. So again, everybody, we're going to do a post hang. It might not be till like 10 or 10:30ish or something like that, but I'll probably fire something up if I get enough interest in from the peanut gallery. I have a couple people, Brian and Serge, and probably Nick will probably come hang out a little bit, so we'll figure that out. But anyway, and remind me, Nick, to do my show announcements, because I got a big change from tomorrow that I need to let people know about.
Okay,
coming up in the week. So my album, if you want to show it, is Altars of Madness, their first album, which came out May 12th, 1989, was recorded December 1988 at Morris Sounds again. That came out on Combat and Earache. It was produced by Dig. I don't know who that is. Who is that?
I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna look that up because
Let me see. Hold on. Oh, Digby Pearson. I got it. Here we go. English musician, producer, and businessman. That's the guy that owns Earache. Duh. Why didn't I know that? Digby. So when they say he produced it, that means he gave him the money, probably. It sounds like it was pretty much self-produced. So this album was recorded December 88 at Morrisound. The album is one of the earliest examples of death metal and is considered to have helped pioneer the sound along with Possessed Seven Churches, Death Scream Bloody Gore, Atheist Piece of Time. Any other ones, big ones you want to throw in there?
Obituary Slowly Rot came out the same year, but I think it came out a little bit later.
Necrophagia. So there's all those bands, right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, this isn't a place to get into what the first death metal album was again, because we've already done that to death. See what I did there? The album features a number of tracks that were originally recorded for what was supposed to be their debut album, Abominations of Desolation, originally recorded in 86, but which was only released in 91. The band was unhappy with the final product of Abominations, Azagthoth in particular, who did not believe it was what he had envisioned. In December 88, the band returned to the studio to record what would become their first true debut release, Altars of Madness. Almost all of the songs on that original demo recording have been re-recorded and appeared on various Morbid Angel albums. The band has explained that in many ways they felt unprepared when they entered the studio, despite them having practiced extensively beforehand. The band chose the studio because it was located close to the band in Tampa and considered it the preeminent studio at the time. David Vincent called it a trial run, but that he was really pleased that everything came together when it finally did. Original vinyl and cassette pressings of Altars did not include Lord of All Fevers and Plagues. This track has appeared as a bonus track on nearly all CD versions of the album between Maze of Torment and Chapel of Ghouls, later versions, reissue versions, while the remastered 2002 release included remixes of 3 songs from the album Maze of Torment, Chapel of Ghouls, and Blasphemy. The cover artwork by Dan Seagrave, everybody should know who Dan Seagrave is, depicts a flat disc made of a fossil material that has captured souls. Seagrave has said that, never mind, strike that comment. Terrorizer rates this album as Morbid Angels and death metal's finest hour, describing it as bludgeoning and raw, but also technical, exacting, and intimidatingly consistent. Altars of Madness has appeared at the top of lists of the greatest death metal albums of all time by Decibel Magazine, Terrorizer Magazine. In April of 2006, the album was inducted into the Decibel Hall of Fame. The magazine wrote that the album would turn death metal both upside down and inside out. Robin Bajcerovic, of Close Up Magazine credits Altars of Madness with launching the popularity of death metal in Sweden. And his quote is, Morbid Angels' Altars of Madness changed everything about the Swedish scene. Before that, there was no clear distinction between death, speed, or thrash among regular metalheads. It was just brutal metal. But Altars of Madness opened people's eyes, made us realize something new was going on. Everybody bought that record, everybody. And thrash was executed by it. The whole genre just disappeared. I don't necessarily believe that. Maybe in Sweden, it did change the dynamic of where thrash was going. There's no doubt about that. But Michael Ockerfeldt talks about this album pretty glowingly as a huge influence on where Opeth started to go when they got to My Arms, Your Hearse. So, all right. So for me, I'm going to go through the tracks real quick, and then we'll get to you. We'll do the other points, and you can follow up with yours, and then we'll tie it all up in a bow. Immortal Rights kicks it off, man. It comes screaming out of the gate like a tornado. Those snarling riffs, the cool synth orchestrations, I really like them. I think they work really great. Hold on. You get your turn at the end.
Fine.
Behind the tremolo pick sections, I think that's a killer accent. Suffocation, pure mayhem and savagery, not Mayhem the band. Out of the gate, it has a good bit of speed and punk intensity, as well as the death metal savageness. The breakdown section with Evil D's bass starting that spiraling breakdown, killer. But again, or maybe I should say, but actually starting with Trey starts to wank a good bit on this. He's just jizzing all over the place. Visions. Oh,
Awesome
shit.
song.
Sorry, I just noted Visions of From the Dark Side is a fucking relentless and uncompromising track. Those trem pick sections with harmonies have crazy. Here you go. Here's a weird one. Those the trem pick. I'm using the word tremolo, but what I really mean is alternate picked. And if I had my guitar close, I'd show you. But tremolo to me means you're doing a lot on one string, but you're actually raking across the strings and doing usually chordal patterns, right? Or a bunch of notes in a scale. What Trey does a lot is he picks, he tremolo picks by alternate picking, like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, fast, up and on a few notes. And that kind of you could almost call it trill picking in a weird way. Kind of. I'm getting a little bit too technical from a guitar nerd standpoint, but you get my point. Anyways, those sections with the pick sections with the harmonies, to me, they have crazy Maiden on Meth vibes. It's like Maiden on Meth. It just sounds like, okay, there's the little bit of the Maiden section. We're going to talk about new wave of British heavy metal and another track coming up down here crazily too. That is Visions, though, oddly, is not one of my favorite tracks. It's probably one of the lesser tracks on the album for me.
Oh,
Maze of Torment, which our buddy in the chat here, Devin, is he never comes around anymore, unless of course it's Morbid Angel. So, but anyway, Maze of Torment comes screaming out with those new wave of British heavy metal chords. The beginning of that is total new wave of British heavy metal ripoff. A little bit speedier, but it's awesome.
More evil.
What?
More evil, though. More evil. Definitely more evil.
Yeah, more evil. More evil. And then it goes into that spiraling riff blender, and Trey and Pete literally go off into outer space. It's crazy speed on that. I don't know how many BPMs this song is. Devin, why don't you look up what the BPMs of Maze of Torment, the track is. It's probably about the same speed as you masturbating to this song. That's just my guess. I don't know. Did I really go there? Did I actually say that? Oh,
you did.
It's probably true. It's probably true, though. Let's be honest. Yeah, insanely heavy and technical playing on that. It's crazy how fast this song propels itself along. That's a mega banger. Visions is a tweener banger, and Suffocation's a mega banger. So we got 3 mega bangers, 1 tweener banger. Lord of All Fevers. It's a little samey to Maze at first, the riffing. But until you get to the chorus, the song is super savage as fuck. Although, to be honest, it's not a favorite of mine on the album. But I love that part where it goes into I guess it's the chorus. I think it's the chorus where he's doing the whatever he's doing with that fucking Cthulhu language, whatever that the necromon. What's it called? The Necrominicon or whatever it's called. I forget what it's called.
Cthulhu with hang on. I don't know. That's all I know.
Cthulhu speak. In other words. It's I always forget this guy's name.
Lovecraftian.
Thank you, Lovecraftian language. Thank you. I always forget his name. I don't know why. Anyway, Lord of All Fevers. Yeah, I actually like that section, and the playing there is absolutely unhinged. It's just fucking incredible. Chapel of Ghouls, more spiraling insanity. Riff wise, Your God is Dead. Super speedy metal. I.e. Destruction and Creator in that meets Motorhead. Then the breakdown. It almost goes into a traditional prog metal section right there. It's speedier and faster, but it's very prog trad metal because it's not as speedy, and it's actually very chordal and very melodic in a way. And you get those, I'm telling you, the synths on that song are perfect. Perfect. I can't wait to hear you shit on them because you're
shit on Trey. You're gonna get way more shit than I will.
I don't really. Hey, it's just the truth. Yeah, that section. I wish it was a little longer. That's probably my favorite section of the song. Trey's solo, for the most part, and the outro sections is my favorite on the album. It's probably my favorite track on the album. I love the atmospheric feeling of that track as it builds at the end. It's got those chugging sort of riffs at the end. Bleed for the Devil, Insane Savagery, but kind of it's just more Trey wankery, which wears me out. That's probably the big issue with me as a whole for Morbid Angel, which I've said. Damnation's really the first skipper for me. It's okay. It's punky. It's death metal. It's punky death metal. It's all right. Blasphemy, pretty solid track. It's a tweener banger. Damnation's a skipper for me, actually, believe it or not. Bleed for the Devil, that's just a semi-banger for me. The flanging is full effect on Evil D's voice, and it's on the guitars, and it sounds menacing. This is Blasphemy, by the way. Slamming Sandoval is all over that track. The double bass just never stops. It just never stops in that old track. Chaotic snare work on that. And then finally, Evil Spells. I think it's a fucking killer closer. I love this track because it's very varied. There's a lot going on in it. The riff sounds suitably menacing with an almost Covenant vibe on this track. It's the most Covenant-like song on the album for me. The rhythm savagery is killer. The solo breakdown is classic Trey. Those lurching riffs at the end of the song is what makes Morbid Angel so special back then, because nobody was doing that and everybody's stolen that from them, quite frankly. And yeah, that's a mega banger. It's a 9.5 out of me. Production to me is fine. I don't really hear anything, dramatically. I think that the balance is good. The mix is fine. As you said, as you noted, the vocals are a little different. They're a little more savagely thrash, maybe. Thrash death. Whereas he's gone more to the sludge doom death sort of croak for on the next album. But yeah, Killer Morris sounds. Fleming does a great job. Replayability on this one's, an 8 or a 9. It's in that same sort of vein as Covenant. As we said, these two albums are kind of maybe the hallmark albums for them. But Blessed, I can see where people feel like Domination's a bit of a half and half album. I get 60-40 maybe.
I mean, I have my issues with it. Some of the interludes are a little pointless. I'm still not a fan of Caesar's Palace. I just feel like it's just kind of a there track.
I agree. Yeah.
But
well, let me wrap, and then I'll let you take your take on this album. And you get Gateways is great, Formulas is great. There's really all the way up through Formulas. You really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Or no, wait.
Gateways.
Gateways. I'm sorry, Gateways. Yeah, I forgot my alphabet there. I did a dyslexic thing there. But yeah, killer album. Again, replayability. I think the sequencing is fine on this album. I don't really, other than maybe dumping Damnation. I didn't count how many tracks. How many is that?
10.
Yeah, really, it's 10. It seemed like more. 2, 4.
Same amount of tracks on Covenant.
Okay.
I mean, there's if you have the special editions or whatever. This has been reissued to death.
I listened to the regular one, but so yeah. All right, your take on it, Nick.
Dude, I basically have almost nothing but good things to say about this album as well. This is my number 2 in our somewhat infamous Morbid Angel ranking, where Jammin' John ranked Altars number 6, just in case anyone forgot. Yeah, still give him shit about it. This album, all right. One of my arguments that I actually wrote down was, all right, we're talking about band defining. Both of these albums can be said as genre defining. And Morbid Angel's Altar of Madness, I think, just probably gets more credit in terms of genre defining, because it really has every trope of death metal that would end up in pretty much every subsequent death metal album released after that. Pete was moving even faster than a lot of death metal drummers were at that point. The song's well constructed. It's raw. It's gritty. I do think there is a bit of a thrash sort of vibe to it still.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel purely death metal like Covenant or even Blessed. There is definitely a little bit say 70-30, like 30% of it definitely has its roots in thrash. And that's not a bad thing. I like thrashy death metal. The synths, okay. I like them, but the tone of them, going back, it sounds cheesy, and I like hearing horror synths in death metal. I think it's a really cool effect. And if you get that like kind of like Fabio Frizzi sort of sound where it's just bleak or like Goblin or something like that, I think it's really effective. Those, they kind of just sound like a Casio keyboard and like, all right, let's just kind of reverb them up. They're effective. Like I do like them on the breakdown of Chapel of Ghouls, which Chapel of Ghouls is like like almost a top 5 song for me in terms of Morbid Angel. I love that fucking song. But maybe on a Moral Rights, I feel like they feel a little cheesy. Plus, you have the yeah, that part. It feels, I don't know, a little cheesy on that, and it kind of takes away from the evil vibe because the rest of the album, like when they really get sinister, especially with Dave's vocals, like even in that thrashier delivery, he sounds menacing, and that coupled with the strange riffing from Trey, like they really just kind of carved out again their own particular niche within a forming genre at that point, which is why you get so many Morbid Angel worship bands, because they had a very particular sound. Like you get death worship, there's incantation worship, but like Morbid Angel worship is really easy to pick out. Like you hear those tremolo riffs of that dark sludgy bend, or someone writes a song that is remotely similar to God of Emptiness or Where the Slime Live or something like that. So you instantly just pick up like, oh yeah, that's Morbid Angel.
Right.
You get so much of that on Altars as well. But the thing I love about that album is it's aggressive, it's evil, it's raw. There's almost sort of a punk attitude to it too. Like it's just very aggressive and in your face. And it's just a fun fucking listen. Like, I mean, God, I don't know if there's any track in here I really skip either. This is another one I jam all the way through. I like Damnation. Evil Spells is a great closer too.
I love that song, man.
But I mean, God, man, those first 6 tracks, including Lord of All Fevers and Plagues,
I like that one a lot, man.
Dude, that's just some killer stuff, dude. Maze of Torment, man. Oh, that was one that was peppered in their live set that was absolutely killer. The pits were fucking nuts for that. But yeah, in terms of like overall scores, like I would have to put like decimals, like little decimals next to there, like all right, this is like a 4.999999995 versus Covenant being 4.9999997 or whatever. It's like it's such a thin margin between these two, but Covenant, I just think defines Morbid Angel like as a band. It might not, you could argue it might not define death metal as a whole, like in terms of like,
I think that's a good distinction there.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you on one point. It kind of defines them in terms of where they went and then how the rest of their kind of career played out, as far as, because while you hear the lurching, sludgier stuff a little bit on Altars, it's a lot less than it is on Covenant.
Yeah.
So they added that dimension. Dave came in and did a little bit of clean vocals, which some people don't like, but I do.
I think they're good.
Yeah.
And in the thickening of the guitar and low end, like you hear that a little bit more on Bless of the Sick, but when those guitars come in on Covenant, you hear how like murky and thick they are.
Right.
Like, that is definitely like a hallmark of their sound. Like every album after that, the guitars were just beef, like just thick and murky, but still distinct. Like you can still pick out the crazy crawling riffs that are all over there.
Right.
And that became a hallmark of their sound. And like, that's the thing I listen to. Like I can hear like that on so many albums as well. Like just from like a couple of riffs is like, yeah, dude, that's kind of that Morbid Angel tone. And when it comes down to the Morbid Angel tone, I don't necessarily think of Altars for that, because the guitars are a little bit, thrashier, a little bit, sizzlier.
They might, I can't disagree with that. They're not as, but then again, I would say, well, that Trey tone got even more aggressively Trey on Gateways.
It's
a lot more sludgy and thick. So, that comes down to what Gary's using, what heads he's using, what microphones are being used. I'm talking back when they were still doing that and not using fucking plugins. I don't know. I'm not saying that the new stuff is plugins. I don't know. But a lot of bands are doing that because the tonal qualities are so minuscule to the human ear. You don't really hear it unless you're in the room. The problem with that is with a lot of guitar players, if you're like me or maybe Nate or other guys, Andrew or whatever, whoever's a guitar player, as a guitar player, when you're used to coming up with digital, you're used to it. You're not used to getting in a room with a fucking stack and blowing your fucking guts out with it. Whereas, and don't get me wrong, I think those tools are great to be used, but when you're in a room with a Marshall stack or a Mesa Boogie head and a cabinet, 4x12s, 2 stacks, you just can't replicate that with digital for me. So I don't know what's going on later albums, but I can tell you what, Gateways was done with amps and probably Marshall, JCM 800s, I'm guessing, or 900s. And I don't know his gear. I never really looked into it. I know he's using the Ibanez back on a lot of these albums. And there's a tonal thing that Trey has that, it set the mark for a lot of bands. And while I agree, you hear a little bit of more of a higher, maybe a slightly thrashier tone. And I don't know what they were tuned to on Altars. I don't know if it was E or E flat. I'm going to guess probably E flat or perhaps D. I don't know. I've never tried to play their stuff. Maybe Andrew knows. But I don't see that much of a difference in it. I hear a lot of that lurching sort of vibe in Altars that's there, just a little bit more pronounced on Covenant. It's a little more in your face than it was perhaps E flat. That's what I thought. Yeah. So did we achieve anything here as far as convincing? Not really, because both these albums, if you took one away, you'd be like, well, I still have that.
Yeah.
If you took Altars away, you go, yeah, but I have Covenant. And if you took Covenant away, I'd be like, yeah, but you got Altars. So, and not only that, again, we got them. I've said it and I'll say it again. Blessed, Domination. Yeah, that's probably a 60-40, 75-25 album for me. Although I love Hate Work. I love that song, Hate Work.
I don't even like that song.
I love that song, man.
I used to see Dominate, the opening track. Dawn of the Angry is one of the best riffs. They never fucking play live. I'm still salty about that. But yeah, there's some great songs that you just get like kind of just like bullshit in between. Like I feel like there's a good chunk of filler on that album.
Right. Well, that's your take, and it sucks, but you're allowed to have it. It's okay.
You suck. What?
When are we starting the MILF series? I'm just curious.
I don't know. Am I invited to that? I thought you were gonna. You got to come up with the acronym.
That might be a little uncomfortable. I'm just saying.
You got to come up with the acronym first. Like that's on you.
But you pawned it, so I don't know. We'll have to figure. Yeah, I got to come up with the acronym.
I mean, if it's on your show, man. The responsibility. It's got to be clever too. I'll tell you what. I'll be the one that has to approve of it.
All right, I'll work on it. All right, so I think that kind of wraps it. I mean, in terms of these are getting a little easier because I don't feel like I have to explain everything like I did initially, and unlike the Maze of Torment guy that was in here, where we had 20 minutes of fucking around trying to get a clear video and audio signal last Sunday night or whatever it was, or Wednesday night I think it was, where we were able to rip through this pretty good. As far as a post-show hang, I saw some people, Levi, I saw you said you'd like to join. Antelope, I don't know who you are, so I'm not sure how I would contact you, Boss Antelope. You have to let me know who you are, number one. Number two, you'll have to contact me on gas_masks_ hand grenades or hand_grenades_. So that's gas_masks_ hand_grenades_. Sorry, I'm having a
Is it linked on your channel?
Huh?
Is it linked on your channel?
It is linked on my channel. So if you go up there, the Instagram's there. hit me with an Instagram. That's how I'll do that, because I don't think you can. I'm not sure, but I don't think you can post links in here. Although you might be able to post your @ I'm not sure. But if you want to do that, you can try. But I'd prefer you reach out to me there on that. Anybody else? I'm not on Grinder, you fucking cunt, you. You fucking cunt, you. You know, the funny thing is, though, you spelled it wrong, though. I don't think there's an I in there, dipshit. Not that I know about that stuff. I'm just saying, not that I know. But,
right. Anyway.
Mike, I'll let you on, but the minute you start talking about over people, I'm going to kick you out. So be careful. Ben, I don't know if you're around. I'm probably not going to get this started till about 10:30. I have to take a quick shower and shower off the filth after that Grinder comment, and talking about MILFs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, a couple of things coming up. Well, Nick, what do you got coming up? Anything major?
Tomb Mold review.
Tomb Mold, is that tomorrow?
Yeah, it is tomorrow. Man, that was a fun listen and completely unexpected.
Yeah, I didn't listen. I only listened to one track, so don't spoil it for me yet.
You need to listen to the entire album.
I'm gonna.
You need to. A bunch of other reviews we got coming up. I mean, the release schedule is fucking crazy. I'm gonna get back to doing some States of Metal, some short ones, and then I'm gonna dive into some collection update stuff. I have all of Judas Priest listened to, all my notes down. It's just going back to them and refreshing myself. And eventually, I think sometime in late October, we'll probably get down to that, because that is quite a daunting discography. But yeah, plenty of stuff coming. It's going to be fun trying to balance that out and going to all these concerts that are popping up too.
Yeah, you got a lot going on there, right?
Dude.
Cool. Andrew, Marissa Tomei is old enough to be your fucking mom, dude. Like, what is... Oh, I guess that works for MILFs then, huh? See, I got a problem, because the MILF category for me is... It's like Betty Davis, and she's dead. All the MILFs are dead that I could look at as MILF. They're 80.
You got to crack open a cold one, huh?
That's true. We'll be done. cracking open a cold one. Nice. Yeah, all the MILFs that I could think about. Actually, it's interesting when you bring this up. I don't know why, but and a lot of you guys won't know who this is, but I know Nick should. Victoria Principal was on Dallas. Back the show Dallas, she was also dating Andy Gibb, and I don't know why, but something came across my radar about her. I gotta say, man, for a 76-year-old woman, amazing, really
looking that up.
quite beautiful still. And it does happen. My mom's 78, and she still looks pretty young, man. I mean, pretty young. And there's new Alkaloid that's out.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's another review that we did that I have to edit down. It's a double album.
I got to check that out. Dude. I love the Liquid, what's it? Liquid
Anatomy? Oh, Liquid Anatomy fucking smokes.
Love that album.
Yeah. It's a 2-disc album, and both discs are very different. Wow.
Okay. You got it, or did you just listen to it?
I got to order it, so we reviewed it, though. I just got to edit it down.
All right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, getting off this MILF topic, because it's a little bit. I hope none of my guests actually watch this far into this thing. So real quick, what's coming up on my show? Tomorrow night at 10 p.m. with Eric Berg, Psychic Vacuum. We are doing the back half of the Jethro Tull catalog. I've got 11 albums I've got to digest between now and 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Yeah, why do I do this to myself? The good news is, a few of them are very, very good. A few of them are not that great. So I won't be spending a lot of time putting a lot of heavy-duty notes together for some of those albums. I was supposed to interview Richard Barbieri from Porcupine Tree tomorrow at 2 p.m., but I decided it was too short a notice for me, and I was overreaching. I'm going to have my buddy Richard on next Saturday. We'll do that next Sunday. At 2 p.m., I will be interviewing Richard Barbieri. What else? I believe it's September 28th, the plan is for Dennis and I to reconvene and bring all of our awesomeness together to do Forgotten Metal Gems of the 80s and 90s, number 6, I think, or maybe it's 7. I'm not sure. But anyways, we are going to be talking about Kick Axe, Canadian band Kick Axe. We're going to be talking about Sortilege from France. We're going to be talking about Slaughter Extroyas from Chicago. And we're also going to be talking about Laz Rocket from San Francisco. So those are going to be the four bands that we are going to do. And then that's, I believe, the 28th. And between now and next Sunday, there will be 2 more dad episodes. I got to get with my people to talk to them to see who's available. I'm kind of hoping that Logan will be available one weeknight, like Thursday night or Tuesday night, one of those two, and we can do the Soundgarden dad episode. And I'd like to get Lee on to talk about Pink Floyd. Here's the deal, guys. These are not always going to be about metal because the old man here doesn't always just listen to extreme metal. He needs a respite sometimes. I'm old. My Depends get kind of they need to take me out and clean me up every now and again. And then we put on something mellow like Animals or Dark Side of the Moon from Pink Floyd. That's going to be the pairing that we're going to be doing, Lee and I. And I think Logan and I are going to be doing Bad Motor Finger versus Super Unknown. So, again, these are all for the Dad series. These are all albums or bands that are not deep dives that we've done. I'm not going to do anything with deep dives. Any bands that we've done a deep dive on, there will be no dad episodes on. So, one big one to mention. I believe the second week of October, myself, Tom Draper of Spirited Drift, and Craig Beerhorst from the Ruffians and the Butlers, and Handsome Dick Manitoba, we're going to do the Rainbow catalog. And I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that I can get Craig Cicero to join me. Still working on that interview for Paul Masvidal. I'm hoping to get that off the ground soon. And I think that's it. So one more time, real quick, let me know who's going to join the after show thing. Nick, you going to show up or what?
Yeah, no, I'll show up. I'm just glad you're not sick of me yet, because I definitely won this one. Covenant rules.
I'll tell you what. On a technicality, I'll give you the win, and here's why. You pointed out something that I didn't think about, which was the 2 styles kind of came to fruition on this album, fully realized. I'll give you that. You're definitely not nearly as good looking as I am. So
are you kidding? Look at this. My beard is twice.
I got the cooler shirt on tonight.
No, because this was Morbid Angel and you didn't wear Morbid Angel.
Listen, buddy, I'm a rebel. I do what I want to do.
No, that's some poser douche canoe shit. All right.
I hear you. I see how you worked that guy into the fold there. All right. Yeah, I got it. For guys like Boss Antelope, you're going to have to contact me. And you're going to have to contact me on Instagram. Mike, I have your contact info. Levi, I don't have yours, but I think Nick does.
Yeah, I can send him a link.
And we'll see what's up there. Let me just quick through for. Nick, you asked Nate, you asked me a question about Eddie Van Halen and the Phils. Let's see. Does it bother me with Eddie Van Halen? No, man, because it's fucking Eddie Van Halen. But if you want me to get a little bit more informed about that, Eddie could fill space better than perhaps any guitar player alive, because unlike saying Yngwie, who's got to do the Yngwie, that was Yngwie. Eddie could play an extremely melodic line and do stuff that wasn't all about just shredding balls. He could play something exceptionally clean and exceptionally melodic, and it didn't have to have 8,000 notes. And if he was tapping, it didn't have to have 8,000 notes. It could be a really cool pinch harmonic, or it could be a 12th fret harmonic, not a 12th fret harmonic, but the harmonics where you're doing the picking up from the note 12 frets up. He could, like the Eric Johnson harmonics where he picks them with his finger on the note and then plucks it with his nail. Eddie could do that kind of stuff like nobody's business, and that's why I didn't quite look at it in the same sort of. I don't look at it as the same sort of way. Trey is an amazing guitar player, so I'm not saying he's not. He's one of the best of the genre for sure. It's just that unfortunately he has a tendency to just overplay and fill up space sometimes too much with a little bit too much wankery. Like he's just trying really desperately hard to overly impressed. That's my impression.
He's trying to appease the elder gods. All right, come on.
You think that's what it was?
Totally is. Totally
the elder guys.
Definitely the elder gods.
All right. Well, brah. Yeah. So, listen, everybody was in here. We had 20 people in here at one point, or 22 actually, which is cool. Which is really, really cool. We will commence with starting in about, I'm going to say about 13 minutes, but it might be more like 20. But I'll get you a link, Nick, and then you can share it out to Mike and Levi. And if you come on, I'm just warning you, and Nick knows this, you got to be cool. Because if you're a dick, you're gone quick. That's just how I work, how I roll. So I can be a dick. It's my show. I'm allowed to be a dick. And Nick can be a dick because he's Nick the Dick.
Necrotic
Every now and again. But no, I mean, it's just I'm just laying the land that, I'm generally pretty cool with people joining and meeting new people and everything. But if somebody's kind of an asshole, I'll make it known pretty quickly. And, that's kind of the old man in me. The old man get off my lawn, dude. So, all right, guys, we appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. Nick, a very stellar edition of Dad tonight.
Absolutely.
We did we did our homework, and we were ready to rock and roll, and we'll go for that. Yeah, Andrew, you can pop in. Hit me on Instagram with a message so I know what's going on. All right, Ritual Homicide. Do I know you? Have I met you? If you want to come in, you need to hit me on Instagram. We need to have a little chat first of all. I need to sort everybody out. Maybe I know you, Ritual Homicide. Maybe I don't know, but I don't know that I do. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna call it, and we shall see you in 10 minutes or thereabouts. Maybe 15, maybe about 25 up. I gotta take a piss.
Yeah, I got pissed too.
All right, bye. See you guys. Nick, hang on.